Gloria, if you would be so kind as to introduce
Yeah.
David.
Well, David Lesinsky, he lives in Brookline, has a wonderful store called Eureka Puzzles, and he's going to tell us about stuff today. And he has a background in both science and business, high tech development, and has traveled, I think, all over the world and collected puzzles, which is his passion. And I think that passion comes through in his store with many puzzles. And
So, Gloria, thank you very much. And I could say that I think I recognize almost everybody from coming into the store, one thing or another. And I can tell you that I really appreciate the general support and enthusiasm, for the shop and the stuff that we try to do. My focus here as a diversion before I talk a little bit about business, because I approach it in some ways, in the same way, is to find things and ways of engaging people and engaging them, looking at different things from different perspectives, from playing around with things, for understanding how things work or they don't work, and being able to get greater sense of enjoyment through interacting with a series of either items and through interacting with each other, which is very much the game side of things. And I appreciate, Gloria, your very nice words. As you guys know, the business community is currently hurting, and they're hurting in ways that are not necessarily obvious. Now, I can say I'm certainly not saying doom and gloom. I can't tell you, oh yeah, these 3 businesses are going out. I don't know of any businesses that are going out. I can tell you that from a revenue perspective, most of the businesses here are down between 50 and 80% of what they would have done at this point in time. Now, the problem is that the impact of having revenue down that far is cumulative. So most of us live of saying, okay, we'll spend a lot of money and we'll bring in merchandise for a particular season. We then sell that and use the money from there to bring in the merchandise for the next season. So it's a constant revolving cycle. What's been happening since we shut down for many of us is that, in fact, the merchandise has sat on the shelves and hasn't moved, which means that investment is difficult in getting new merchandise to be able to bring it in for the upcoming season. Now, for some of the merchandise, I said, guys, just take and put it down in the basement, bring in stuff that's seasonal appropriate. You could sell it next year, which is true for puzzles and for games. But it's not true for fashion items, not true for clothing. It's not true necessarily for shoes, because there is definite style, there's colors, there's things that change much more regularly. It's a dizzying pace of things and decisions that every one of the shop owners goes through all the time to make sure they've got the right merchandise in time. So if they're sitting on inventory that they haven't been able to sell, number one, they have to sell it at a discount. Number two, it impedes their ability to buy new stuff. And number three, it then makes it harder to make sure that they stay viable in an interesting place moving forward. That's just kind of the reality of a retail business at this point in time. They say that most retail businesses are not profitable until Black Friday. That's true. Most retail businesses are not profitable until Black Friday. You're funding it on your own through lines of credit with the bank or through other sources. And you're hoping that your choices that you make are appealing to other people, so that in fact they will then come and take your merchandise away, pay for it, of course, but they will take it away. And then you get a chance to buy some new stuff. So I don't know, for those of you, I always thought about this as, this is a great profession for shopaholics. Those folks that love to shop. Well, you love to shop, that's great. You're just shopping for other people, and then if you guess right, they take it away and you go on. So, but aside from that, so the business community in general is hurting. And it's not just on the retail side, it's also very, very much on the, the restaurants, the cafes, the eat-in places. because we do, as an example, a vacation program. Now, vacation program is when we bring kids in, 10 to 15, we teach them a game, and we generally have a student to teacher ratio, or student to game instructor ratio of 1 to 5, or 1 to 8. Now, what that means from an economic perspective is that, okay, we'll break even at 4. We'll make a little bit of money at 5, but you really need the density of people to actually make any money from all of the effort required to run the program. Restaurants are exactly the same way. In fact, even more so. If they have tables that are spaced out, the economics are such that they need a certain density, certain number of people that are there to be able to become profitable. Because if you think that you have the same investment in the rent and in servers and kitchen help, and those ingredients could serve anywhere from 50 people to 100 people, the food piece of it is cheap. The labor is already spent, the rent is already spent. Now you got to bring people in, and if they're spaced, it just totally reduces what you're able to take home at the end of the day. So the restaurants are probably hurting as much, if not more, than retail. We're at a point where I think everybody has been incredibly, and I'm speaking here as head of the chair of the Merchants Association, because I talk to my colleagues all the time, and many of them will open up to me in ways that you're not going to find when you talk to someone. I had a discussion with someone at one point, who was on the retail side, and she said when people would ask her how business was, she says what her father always said: all the business she gets is great, which is true. Doesn't answer the other questions. Most retailers will tell you same thing. All the business they get is great, and it is, and everyone appreciates it, and it's hard. The question becomes, how can we as a community react, number one, and number two, it's also very clear that no one is looking for a handout. No one wants charity, because nobody wants, I don't know about you, but if I start feeling I'm obligated, to go someplace or to support somebody by buying something, I don't feel good about it. Okay, I'll do it once, I'll do it twice, but then I might not go there again. The reason people in Brookline, the shops and the restaurants have remained viable with all of the other choices that are out there is because we offer real value. We offer something that's in addition to the selection of merchandise on the retail side, the eye for fashion, when you're looking at people that are selling clothing or selling shoes, the ability to respond to a palette, so you can have different food selections and tastes. We have collectively offer enormous quality, either in service or in merchandise, back to the community. And that's something that we feel is great. That's what we should be paid on, not be paid or given something out of charity. As Elias knows, because he sat in on the discussion this morning, we ran a survey, because one of the key things is to say, okay, how do we bring people back in and, to shop, and how do we bring them in so that they're feel comfortable coming back again? We ran our sidewalk sale recently. And one of the concerns is that, look, for a sidewalk sale to work, you got to bring a lot of people in. But we don't want to bring people in so they're going to get sick. We want to bring people in so, they'll be able to stay appropriately socially distanced, and at the same time, try and move some merchandise that we have too much of at this point in time. And so we chose not to deliberately advertise this thing far and wide. We just told our lists, hey guys, we're doing this. to bring fewer people in. So at the end of the day, you look at the numbers and say, okay, was it as successful as prior sidewalk sales? Of course not. But were we being responsible to the fact that we're all living through a pandemic? Yeah, we were. And I can tell you, everybody cares about, our customers, our community, our employees. We don't want to get anybody sick. We don't want to do things that's going to get them sick. And so we made the sacrifice to keep the retail side at a much more manageable level, to make those choices as safe as they can be for our broader constituency. So we're at a point right now that I never thought we'd be, which is we're starting September and everything is still in disarray. So what is it that we as a community can do? Or without looking at charity, so one clearly is to say, okay, we have good merchandise. Most of us have gift certificates. If we don't have something now, buy a gift certificate, give it to somebody, so then this way, at least I'll have some, potentially some funds coming in, we'll be able to do something with. Definitely think about, patronizing the outdoor spaces at the restaurants. I was starting to talk a little bit about the study that we ran. It was really quite interesting, and also it was really heartwarming. At the end of the day, we managed to reach over 600 people in Brookline, and we asked them questions that said, what will it take, basically, for you to feel comfortable coming back to shop, knowing full well that we are working as hard as we can? And they said some really interesting things, some things that were not as obvious if you had to actually read in the detail. One is having everybody wear a mask now is very important. Having people respect the regulations and being able to sanitize is very important. Being able to feel that people weren't crowded on top of one another, that they were able to have space was very important. Having plexiglass was very important. So if you look, having sanitation stations, for hands is very important. I can tell you, when we thought about customers coming back in, and we were concerned about saying, let's say somebody comes in and they touch something. There's no way we are going to know with all the things that we have in this shop what they touched. Even if, we're diligent and we wipe down every single surface, somebody picks up a product, for instance, and then puts it back and slides it in, we'll never catch it. So our approach was to say, anybody that walks in this place has got to sanitize first thing. Turns out 70% of the respondents agreed. And they said, yeah, if there's sanitizing stations around, we'll do it. My feeling is if you sanitize when you walk in and you touch something, that's fine. You're sanitized. It's okay. And they're also finding, of course, as you all know, that this is much more of an airborne disease than not an airborne disease. We started running this survey early in the summertime. We just got some additional results in towards the end of the summer. And what's interesting is that the number of people that talked about airflow as being important to them increased, which I think mirrors the research that's out there. Something we're looking at, for instance, is installing UV lighting systems inside our ductwork. Now, this would be UV lighting systems. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. It's been used in hospital settings and clean rooms. It's a way to kill pathogens and has been killing pathogens of all kinds. But at the same time, you can't look at the UV lights because it'll damage your eyes. So they've talked about, there's been some research, and I've gone out and pulled out the research. There's research that looks at this and talks about having it be, up on the ceiling behind the panels. But it also turns out if you put it in the ductwork, that can be effective. Air comes in from the store, passes through the filtration system that's there, goes through a heating or cooling unit before it comes back out again, it gets sanitized. Now, the cost for that for us is $1,500 to set that up. You multiply that out by the number of businesses, we're talking about a lot of money, and given that so many businesses are hurting, to say, we really want to make sure that we're keeping people safe, and this is something that should be done. The question very much becomes, how does that get funded? I don't know. Might be, and I'm thinking it might be an interesting project for the Rotary to take on, and saying, okay, use these, systems in, Coolidge Corner businesses or in Brookline businesses, supported in part by a grant from the Rotary. That'd be kind of a cool thing. One of the other systems I'm looking at bringing in here is down in the basement. So I've got one ventilation pipe that comes down here, and down in the basement is where I'm working, and I've got other people working, doing, shipping, receiving, that sort of thing. Well, we have little fans, but that's not the same. So for me to bring a separate unit down here that's self-contained is another $1,000. Again, it's not that it's big money with respect to the business, but given the precarious state many businesses are in, a lot of folks can't do it. And it's possible if we can go in as a community and say, hey guys, we're coming in, we're representing 50 businesses. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Maybe we can get something on a bulk buy. I don't know yet. But it's a complicated question of where things could go. I think everybody is definitely looking towards the fall. I think there is I wouldn't say a sense of we're waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it feels like a cross between waiting for Godot and Groundhog Day. I'm sure everybody here would get at least one of those references. I'm hoping, maybe not. Anyway, but it's really about saying every day we're going to try and present our best face, to the customers, to our employees, keep our stores as attractive and as exciting as possible. Have restaurants and food choices that people are going to feel that it's valuable to patronize, and that we'll all get through it. So, yeah, Arnie, yeah. So, I just want to say I had no formal remarks planned. I figured this would simply be a conversation with everybody out here, just to say, here's the reality behind the scenes, and now let's talk about it. Arnie?
Yeah. Hi, David. It's a pleasure to see you virtually.
Pleasure to see you too.
Yeah.
And by the way, you'll see I've got a second thing down here. I'm talking on my phone because my computer mic wasn't working properly.
Well, David, let me say to you that from my observation, the appeal of Eureka Puzzles is the ability to browse and do impulse buying, and the staff, including yourself, offering suggestions and good insight as to what product is best for the particular recipient of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the question is, in this pandemic situation, you're not going to have that much impulse buying, people coming in. So is your online situation compensating for that in some way?
Our online situation has certainly gotten much better. We were in I think a better space than a lot of others, in that we just had to get all of our inventory up, or more of our inventory. Well, we had maybe 30% of it up, so we had a massive effort here to get everything else up, and we're still working on that. It's hard. That certainly has helped, but Arnie, thank you because that's one of the things about the store. I look at it as eye candy. You know, you look at it and you want to pick something up and touch it. First thing we did, told people, sorry, you can't touch it anymore. So we took away all of our demos and samples that we had out for people to play with. The second thing that we did is we made it less crowded. You know, we took out some actual displays and made the aisles a little bit wider. I'm talking with my hands, but of course you can't see that because I'm a talking head. But, you know, we made the aisles wider. So you can walk around and have a little bit more space. All of which was very effective at, also, by the way, it helped increase the air circulation. But that means that we have fewer places to put things out on display. You know, so we have some stuff down in the basement. We'll bring it up as something else empties out. But yeah, the web has certainly been a saving grace for us. We've sold a lot of things online. We've sold a lot of things locally. During the time period when we had no retail traffic in the store, we initiated a delivery service. We hired somebody. First, we hired a taxi driver, you know, who came in and paid him directly, and then just, you know, figured out how to charge a standard charge. Then we hired somebody else. And we were making easily 1 or 2 deliveries a day, where each delivery would have 10 things going out, you know, 10 packages. At this point, that, you know, demand for delivery or local delivery went away, partially because it was expensive, and I understand it. I was paying the bills on the other side, but also people felt more comfortable. They could just come and pick the stuff up. So then we did curbside pickup. But you're right. It means that you can't discover. You know, it's not just true of me. Think about the Booksmith. You know, you walk around the Booksmith, you got all this great stuff that's there. You know, I don't know about you, but I thought, oh yeah, I'll take one of these. I saw that. That's right. I remembered I wanted to get something for someone else. So it's you know, when you look at the actual, you know, again, you know, looking at retail, one of the things that you know, customers come in to buy one item. For us, they'll buy a puzzle, right? It's a $20 puzzle. Well, if they see something that piques their interest, and we wind up selling another $5 item, that adds up. That becomes critical. Do you guys remember when the old Wild Goose Chase was down, you know, closer to down the street? And they had this great, you know, all of this amazing like impulse buy nooks and crannies. It wasn't quite IKEA-ish, you know, where they directed you to everything. But nevertheless, it was full of those things, kind of the way the Booksmith is, kind of the way we are normally. But right now, it's harder to discover new things. We certainly help. We have stuff up on the website, and we're trying to figure out, how would somebody look for this? What would they look for it under? But since we are open to shopping now, people are now coming back in. Yes, they're keeping a respectful distance from each other. Yes, they're looking at the shelves instead of simply picking things up. And at the same time, they're finding some of those impulse buy items once again.
A segue question. Have you seen this new Australian game called Poppycock?
No, I haven't.
It's a version of Liar's Dice. You know Liar's Dice?
Oh, yeah. I know Liar's Dice.
I just wondered if you have seen that. It seems to be popular among some of my colleagues.
Oh, if I could find out. I know that Liar's Dice is a great game, and that actually is a version of Perudo. And before that, it was
Judo.
Yep, out of the
South America.
Yep, South America. Well, it was the Incas, and I was just thinking they would play this thing, you know, and if you lost your head. It's a bloodthirsty game in those days. A little bit better now.
Yeah. So look at Poppycock from Australia.
I will. I know the Australian distributor who brings things in. Yeah, Marina.
Marina.
David, good to see you. It was a very good overview. Yeah, good to see you here. Thanks for coming. It was a great, overview, business overview, and you made quite a few good, interesting points, and one of them is particularly on those UV lights. To be honest with you, I'm quite surprised that I don't see as many of them around, and not just in Brookline, but in other places. I know we still have a decent weather, and hopefully we'll continue through maybe September and hopefully to the beginning of October. So that would make it for, ability to do some stuff outside. But with fall and winter coming, we won't have any choice. I mean, the businesses, it's inside the business. And I think from what I've seen and heard, those UV lights are pretty good. I mean, of course, it's not, they can't save from everything. Yeah, we still need to keep, masks and sanitizing and everything all together. But those UV lamps in the closed closed spaces, they play a really good role. And I actually, a very good customer of mine, a friend of mine, he installs quite a few of them, and we had a conversation a few weeks ago. And honestly, I was surprised because I hear about those lamps like here and there from different people, but I honestly thought that they're like huge and really, really expensive. And he said they come in different sizes, different prices, and a lot of them, like he installs them in people's houses, and some of them are not that expensive at all. I mean, if you'd like, I can introduce him to you and you can have a conversation. But it might be a great option for stores, like smaller sizes or, different sizes, to take a look at the inventory to see what's available and maybe find a good, practical and not very expensive solution for when the weather gets worse. And, we will need to have it inside, people will need to come inside the store, unfortunately. So. But they might come handy. I mean, I heard they're pretty effective.
That's, like I said, I've tried doing some research on it as well to get an understanding, because my first thought, Marina, was that it looked like this would be a very affordable solution. If all I needed was a UV bulb, I can go ahead and cut into my own ducts myself and install, a regular, set of light, lighting hardware, and then get the bulbs. But then I found out, you needed the right ballast, you needed the right voltage. Question is, okay, how powerful does it have to be? So I don't think that the basic setups are that expensive. For me, is going through another company. This is what the quote that I'm getting, for a unit that is properly sized for this place and fits right in the air duct, so all the air gets through it. I don't know, after how many times during the day. But I agree with you. Right now, we do have the advantage that, we keep our doors open whenever we can. Everybody else does also. You could say that's the one, positive side to global warming, is that we'll be able to continue to do it further into the winter, much like I'd hate to have global warming continue. But at the same time, it might be that we just turn on the heat more. In addition to getting in the UV setup. And I'm also, concerned about my basement ventilation, in that I need to have something here, because the air that goes through the system upstairs comes downstairs and goes out here. So, okay, I clean that, but otherwise it doesn't move around as much. That's where I'm looking at two things instead of just one.
Yeah.
But I agree. I'm surprised I haven't heard more about it. I haven't seen a push for it saying, hey guys, indoor space, here's a solution that could work. Yep.
I was quite surprised when I started conversation and he was telling me that he is like so busy like installing them. And we started conversation. I said, well, tell me a little more about it. And he told me there are like quite a few options, and quite a few of them are not that expensive. So
Right, there are, and it's really interesting how many options there are, and the question is, okay, what's the best and the most affordable one? So, yeah, Susan.
Okay.
Okay.
So good to see you. I'll tell you a funny story. Which goes to Arnie's point, how I miss you and your people in the store. The very first week when we thought we were going to go into a shutdown, I went into the store and stocked up. I think I bought 5 games, got them home to my house. The next day they announced that the following Monday or so everybody was in lockdown. And I looked at my games and realized I'm shut up in this house by myself with 4 games that require people to play them.
Yeah.
What was I going to do? I ran back to the store and got a 1,500 piece puzzle.
Whoa, good for you.
Which is still sitting on the dining room table, by the way.
Yeah. Oh. Well, have you guys been following?
Suggestions, yeah. David.
For like what to do when you're stuck at home?
Yes, with
again,
one person.
Joyce
and I played Monopoly with me walking my cell phone around the board.
Right. Which I got to tell you is really challenging, and it kind of takes away from the spontaneity of the game itself.
Yes.
So there are number of things. Number one, jigsaw puzzles is great, and a 1,500 piece puzzle for many is a challenge. It's probably better to do 3 500 piece puzzles. You know what I mean? Or a couple of 1,000 piece puzzles. So this way, you finish one, you can move on to another one. We've got lots of obviously mechanical puzzles, which frankly I was surprised didn't move as quickly during the pandemic, where we were all shut down, because that's a great way to hone your Rubik's skills, or figure out how to take something apart and put it back together again. Demand was up a little bit, but didn't go over the top. Jigsaw puzzles went over the top. The other thing is that, and I think what's really important, is maintaining social connections with people, talking to folks, setting up Zoom meetings, playing games over Zoom. We actually now are doing social gaming over Zoom, because entertainment is such a big part of the business. We had to find a way to say, okay, people still want to be entertained in one way or another. How do we do that when you can't do it in person, and neither could they? So now we're offering our entertainment virtually to people that are getting together as extended families or different business groups. So that's a part of our business that's continuing, which is good. There are also tabletop simulators out there where there's a lot of games. They require a little more acumen in terms of figuring them out. And there you can play with both other people that that have an account, as well as strangers. So the other thing is making something. We've got lots of kits to make, from locks, to safes, to cars, all of which require patience and time. But Susan, the thing I find is, and I can tell you about myself, I'm a very social person. And so although I have all of these great projects, that I like to work on, I like people. And so when I'm stuck in the house, I find myself more on the phone, or trying to do something with other people at the same time, even if they're in the background. Was anybody here following our Eureka Together Apart challenge that we had going?
No, but I'd like to hear.
So we had a 40,000 piece puzzle in the store. It came in 10 4,000 piece bags. We sent out an email to our customers when we also heard we're getting shut down, to say, okay, guys, we've got this thing, we're going to split it up. Everybody, we're going to pick 10 different households. Tell me about yourself, and if you're interested in doing this, we'll give you the puzzle, and at the end of it, we'll collect it. and then we're going to glue it together and display it somewhere as a tribute to what people can do together apart. And we wanted to set it up so it was like a social media or a social aspect to it, so people would be able to follow each other and kid each other on Instagram or Facebook and post progress reports and pictures, and it was a lot of fun. So we were, I can tell you, I was so blown away by the response. We had over 100 people that said they wanted in on this. We only had 10 bags, and including a family from Hawaii, that had been in the store and moved, and they lived in Hawaii, and they desperately said, please, we will pay the postage. We want to be part of this. And I was like, it was so heartwarming. Our concern was we wanted to be able to keep it local. We wanted to keep it so that we were giving it to people who knew what they were getting into, because a 4,000 piece puzzle is not for the faint of heart, We had to turn down these heartwarming requests from local folks that said, well, we don't have a lot of space, but we're here with our kids, and our in-laws are here, and the dog is there, but we're going to lock this into the foyer area and no one will touch it or step on it. And I'm thinking, I don't think that's going to work. 4,000 piece puzzle, the dog's going to find a part, and that's going to be the end of that piece, So we were highly selective and looking through the different folks, and key was, do they have space? Have they had experience with big puzzles before? Do they know what they're getting into? And are they local so we can retrieve it afterwards? We've got all the puzzles back. Right now, they're all in the basement where we've been testing different techniques for how are we going to glue it together and set it up so that once we actually do have it put together, we can then display it and then potentially break it down and move it. So we looked around, by the way, and found, oh yeah, indeed, these people have taken, it's a 40,000 piece puzzle, and they've had it glued and mounted. And we talked to a few of them, and we talked to one library that said, oh yeah, it took us 7 gallons of glue and we glued it right to the wall of the library. So like, okay, we're not going to want to turn this thing into, a permanent piece of the infrastructure. We want to be able to move it around. Love to have it outside. Problem is, it's a 23-foot long puzzle, and it's 7.5 feet high when it's all assembled. So it's a little large for the average person's living room. It's bigger than any of the walls that we have. We'd have to take away all of our merchandise to even show it in here. So we're still trying to figure out a way of displaying it, but we have been testing, and we found a way to glue it together and keep it in sections, and then have those sections come together. So we've done that. It's a Ravensburger puzzle. We contacted them, we told them about it. They were actually not only were they complimentary, they said it was the most exciting and amazing project that they'd ever seen. They said it operated much more smoothly than anything else. And then the next day they called me back to say, we're sending you the next 40,000 piece puzzle in that series. So when you could do it again. So I thought that was a very, very nice, compliment, because
Yes.
I mean, Ravensburger is like the place for puzzles. So anyway, so that's what we did with our.
Sounds terrific. I'm sorry I didn't know about it.
And we put it under the hashtag Eureka Together Apart. So I think if you just Google Eureka Together Apart, or hashtag Eureka Together Apart, you'll find it, and you'll find lots of pictures. I was doing it, as well, and my family was doing it with me. Although I can tell you, my daughter did most of it, since I was working 15 hours a day to keep the lights on, so to speak. So I didn't have as much time to work on it as I would have liked. But
do you have other projects like that in mind, or virtual classes for students that
so
you're on?
The answer is yes. We actually just we run this game program during the summer. The health department told us absolutely no way could we run it now, even when we only were going to have 4 kids in a group and have them all sanitize their hands and stand behind plexiglass. They said still too dangerous. course, I don't know what that means for schools, because this is going to be a lot cleaner than any school environment. But they felt that it was not safe. So we instead found a platform, and we're doing it socially, and we're doing it virtually using one of the game platforms that's out there. We created a, I wouldn't go to say it's our own environment, but we streamlined it to get so kids could get on it easily and get game instruction. We're running that program now, and we're gonna probably, we expect to offer it as an option moving forward. We
David?
just opened up our 4th
I have
week
a
of the
question.
program, and it's sold out instantly.
Do you have any idea how they manufacture the puzzles?
Well, yes, actually, I know a lot about how they manufacture the puzzles. There was also a special that Ravensburger ran, or a video that talks about how they hand cut them. Most companies do not hand cut their puzzle or hand design them. They use computer aided designs. I actually spent some time with Jim Eyre up in the North Shore, who's a wooden jigsaw puzzle cutter, to see how he was doing it, and he was using water controlled machines. Water controlled, basically beams that he was concentrating a flow of water to essentially like the size of a tip of a pin, that would be able to cut through almost anything. But most companies will create templates, and then almost like a cookie cutter, and then put that on a press and cut through the puzzle with it, and then pulls it out, and they get all the pieces fall out, and they put the next image in, and then they cut it that way. So it's quite a process, and there's lots of elements involved in it.
Well, David, Susan, do you want to introduce Max?
No, well, I don't know that there's any opportunity there for either BU Rotaract or for Eureka, but I wanted to make sure that I introduced you, because they're looking for projects at BU, and David, maybe it's a market.
Yeah, well, Max, we've met before.
I believe
think.
so, yes.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay, didn't realize that.
But it doesn't
I have
mean
to
I necessarily know
definitely-
everything.
True, yeah. I have to definitely come into the store soon. I wasn't sure exactly how close it was, but I have the Blue Bike subscription now, so I can go around town much easier. So I'll have to get a few games. I know me and my roommate love like puzzles and board games, and we'll have lots of time on our hands. So
come on by. We have traditionally had a lot of students that have worked here from BU. In fact, one of the things that I really enjoy is, I have old employees that will leave, and there was one from BU. She and her roommate came in one year. They were both entering, I think, a master's program, and they were arguing over which puzzle to get, right? And they're talking about it, and this was going on for like 15 or 20 minutes. So I offered them both a job. And I said, hey, anybody that's going to be really thinking about puzzles and this and that, had to know this stuff. So I brought them in, and they worked for me both, different shifts for a couple of years. They went on to a doctoral program. They've since both come in the store. They're married. They bring their kids in. They bring their their husbands in, or the significant others. And it's just terrific. So yeah, we've had a lot of folks over from BU.
Thank you very much. This has been exceedingly interesting, and we appreciate very much your time and effort to inform us of things.